Live from somewhere on the toilet, it's Generation Dan, the podcast about generational differences. I'm Atlas Novak. I'm your millennial. Who else is here with me?
I am Dino the Genetic Marvel, and we are a little bit light guest-wise, but the advantage is that Surge is here first, and that is important to everyone. That is the key thing. What's happening, Surge? How are you doing on this wonderful Sunday? We had guests. They have had a family emergency. And you may have seen them, everyone, from Hammered and Cheese. It's Kayla and Jeff. But I hope everything's okay with them. And like life,
we'll have them back on a future week. Vertical, it's so we can put like clips on TikTok. That's why I said from the toilet, because who doesn't scroll TikTok on the toilet?
I mean, listen, if anything, my goal with this podcast is to make sure that people's legs go numb on the toilet just because they're listening to us. That's Jim. Always a pleasure, sir. How are you?
Make sure to wash your hands and your phone.
I mean, wash your hands. Your phone, it's already disgusting.
I know, but I can't help but think of any time someone tries to like show me something on their phone and they're like, "Here, take it." I'm like, "No, that's like a poopy phone. I don't want to like."
So this is okay. Do you read in the toilets, Atlas, or just
sure?
Just okay. So that's something that I'm like. One of my brothers, the brother that passed away, he always had there was a series, I'm not sure if they still exist. It was called The Bathroom Reader. And it was just like,
that's very on the nose.
So it was like, I would say probably like encyclopedia size, like thickness wise, but it would be like, probably by like 6x8.
I'm thinking like a pocket dictionary, like one of those you could like put in a backpack or something.
Yeah, like that, like a compact textbook, like a Bible, like that size, like But it would have like cool stories in history, and then the bottom of every page would have like a weird little fucking saying or fact or something, right? So it's like it would be literally hours of knowledge and information, random as shit, like completely fucked. But yeah, you could just sit there and just start reading, and he always had a stack of them. And that was one thing that I'm like, we don't have reading material because everyone doom scrolls now. So I'm like, but I think I want to get some material. I want to get some books in there, like, because pages, number one, have a different feel, but also I'm worried about poop pages because I'm not okay with, like, if I see someone go with a book into the bathroom and they're like, "Oh, you should check this book out a bit. Get the fuck away from me, weirdo!" Like,
do you have a different copy, please? Like,
100%, 100%.
Right now, so one of my coworkers, who's a history teacher, and I'm an English teacher, she gave me a copy of. It's in essence, it's Huckleberry Finn, but if it took place in LA. So they're
more racism is what you're saying.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's that, and they're like rafting up the LA River, the concrete covered LA River. I'm only a couple chapters in, but I'm curious to see where it goes. It should be fun.
See, this is the thing. Like, I don't even remember if I actually saw the LA River. I probably drove over it at some point, but
when you were down there,
when I was down there. But like, the whole idea that it's an entire river system that's basically just cement for the whole time, you're kind of going, that was a horrible idea. But it's a weird thing.
Because originally it just kept flooding in the 1920s, and they're like, we got to stop that from happening.
Yeah.
So we're gonna pave over it, and it was done by like I think the 40s or 50s. Like
in a place that everyone gives a shit about how things look. It's just such a weird thing.
There's that, and then everyone complains about, we're in a drought. We're in a drought. The city doesn't have enough water. I'm like, then don't pave over the fucking river. Maybe do something with the river, you idiots.
So the weird thing is, what's up, buddy? Well, I can't put words on two face.
What does he mean by that? Words to face?
Put words on two face with an emoji.
Oh yeah.
So like this is the other thing is like, apparently, and this has been happening in a few states, is like there are rules with regards to water and irrigation, and it's like thanks, Jordan, appreciate you. Like there are, like, if you
actually wait while we're here, leave a like, leave a comment, tell your friends, and then Kyle Petrela's vote thing.
Oh, hold on, let me pull it up.
Let's do that real quick before we
do So everyone, we have our friend Kyle is currently trying to win over the hearts of the internet with a very specific contest. Let me just pull it up right now. I had it for the other one,
Don't apologize, Jordan. We're all happy for likes.
This is it. It's called Faces of Horror. It's a contest for him to have a photo shoot with the Kane Hodder, who's the original Jason Voorhees. So it is super cool. So if you check out Kayla, you'll see it there. Or if you just go to Face of Horror, you can vote on a daily basis. And he's currently first. He's kicking ass. So it's fantastic that way. And we hope to ride his coattails, not coattails, maybe coattails, depending on the day, but to freedom and wealth. So it's fine. Yeah. Or I don't know. I can sub, by the way. Oh, thank you. It's appreciated.
Thank you, Jordan. Oh, it's on my face. That's why. That's what he means. Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Well, that is funny. But yeah. So, what were we talking about? We were talking about water. So there's a lot of weird rules around irrigation and water, and like it's very similar to political budgets. Like you use it or you lose it, which I'm like, that is foolishness. So people are like, we need to get all new desks. You're like, why? Because we have it in the budget, and if we don't use it, we lose it. I'm like,
yeah,
that is insane. Like the whole idea of that is insane, right? But anyway,
yeah,
that's those things.
That always drove me nuts. Where it's like, we gotta use this amount of money, otherwise the budget gets lowered or something. Yeah. And ridiculous.
Which, like, that's I think one of the things where like this is because our topic for today, in case everyone knows, is it okay to party? Which is specifically like you're in LA, which is let's be honest, a breeding ground for degenerates. But
it's a breeding ground for degenerates, just like that everlasting puddle is a breeding ground for mosquitoes. It is.
That's fair. Yeah. That's a good point. That is a good point also too. Yeah. PSA, everyone get rid of standing water. It's not healthy. It's bad for you. It's bad for everything. Yeah. Zaragoza. What the hell? That's Atlas is dancing and vibing to sure.
Sometimes I dream that I will become a great YouTuber, and we're the people you came to for that.
I mean, listen, we do make eye contact and hand gestures, so that's fair. We should be number one. But yeah, like I can always I love the idea of progress. Progress is a wonderful thing. Yes. But the problem is I've yet to see progress be supported by bureaucracy. Like there's never been progress and bureaucracy never they're like haha, like it's like a fencing fight, right?
It's not that bureaucracy is backwards, it's that it's just really, 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 really slow. And that's not what life is for the most part.
Well, it's not even that, but that is 100% definitely a contributing factor. But like, it's the idea that they're like, well, what is the rule say? Hold on, are we policing following the rules, or are we policing doing what's right? You know what I mean? Like it's and it's weird because the idea of what's right is not
what's legal isn't always what's right.
No.
Like, here's a good example going off of the topic for the episode. My dad was really into the don't smoke weed, don't do drugs thing when I was a kid. And now he gobbles weed gummies like it's going out of style.
Yeah, he took mine. Sure.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more about my dad, check out the Aspen Chronicles trilogy where we talk to him and his friends about their misadventures in Aspen, Colorado in the 70s. But to him, it was less about whether or not weed was like an okay drug to do and more about, is it legal or not?
Yeah.
At that point in his life. Now, as he's older, he doesn't care anymore. And when he was in his 20s, he didn't care because he was in his 20s. So it's very interesting, especially talking to boomers generations, where their opinion on weed is so different 20 years ago versus now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So that I love. I fell off a fucking Jordan, you are awesome. It's illegal.
Isn't illegal.
Isn't illegal a sick bird? I mean, that's hilarious, Jim. So, okay. Your parents. Let's talk about parents in general, okay?
Yeah.
When you are a child, you have this image of your parents that is not only completely made up, but they know full well it is also completely fictitious. Okay, it is, none of it is real, and they do this because the whole idea. And look, now there's a lot of research that explains it, where you're going like, yeah, if you use drugs before the age of 25, it can give you problems later on, because you're like, it's your brain has to fully develop. And remember, like, I didn't like feta cheese until I was 21. That's fucking weird. I'm Greek, bro.
I was gonna say that's like in your DNA. I thought,
Well, look, I'm not a fan of olives, and I'm like, I think I might need to try olives again, just because, like, I haven't had an olive in 20 years because I'm like, gross. But like, times change. I don't
think Life Alert will save me. That wait,
I
is
mean,
Jordan like I've fallen and I can't? Is he that?
I mean, down a hill.
Jim in the chat.
Jim, go save him. No, but
Jim,
like,
save him.
It's the idea is, and that's the thing is, like, I am a firm believer that the last cusp of knowledge that you get from your parents is the truth, right? Like, that's the last. They're going to tell you their story at some point.
Yes.
Which
sometime in your 20s.
Victoria's like, yeah, olive focaccia sandwich tomorrow. Let's calm down. She loves olives, and I'm like,
focaccia is delicious, though. I don't know what
sure, then you alliterate with olives, and it's disgusting.
No. Okay. I think it's a consistency thing, because do you like bell peppers?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's the reason I don't like them, bell peppers or tomatoes. They kind of have this same-ish consistency.
I think what happened was, like, people are like, do you want some olives? And the olives I ate were like off a pizza, which are like tiny little rubber tires, which are horrible.
Yeah.
So when I eat that, I'm like, I don't like olives. But so I need to try like, I have an olive orchard. I should get olives from there and try them. That would be.
You have an olive orchard?
In Greece, yeah.
No shit.
Yeah. It's pretty wicked.
Crazy.
So like every year it produces like probably like a few liters of oil and like olives and stuff, and a couple €100. No, it's not. It's more so just for personal usage. So my siblings are like, we should get rid of that. And I'm like, maybe we should just live there and eat olives all the time. It'd be fucking great.
I just love the idea of like,
thank you,
a jug of olive oil, and it's not one of you or your siblings, just like, bless this olive oil.
Yeah. I would draw a mustache on my belly and be like, bless us. Yeah. You like Jell-O when you get old. I mean, I enjoy Jell-O. I'm gonna call.
I like Jell-O when I was a kid too. I'm gonna call mine one. I think one of the people in our chat is like slowly. Please don't die, Jordan. You're a new subscriber. We love you. Please.
Yeah. Be cool, bro. Everything will be fine. So like, but that's the thing is that
you get your story from your parents sometime in your 20s. Their story.
I think you would get it much later. I don't think like, I feel like you have to be like a adult person. Like I'll tell you this much. There's a lot of information that your dad is skipping just because, remember, there's like, as time goes, he'll be like, you should know this kind of stuff. Cause like, look, you learn more. And like when you guys have kids and stuff like that, like, cause I feel like there are certain boundaries. Like, look, graduating from school. Hey, now that you've graduated, now you understand, like, this is like, there's an education of after. I try and think I broke it.
Just let it go. Let it go. Just let it fly. The people in the chat can see it too. It's okay. Like,
so, but the idea is that like you do that to safeguard people. Like I remember my dad, like I was raised and my parents were like, never touch anyone. Okay. At the same time, like, remember at the age of 15 was the first time I bought beer. And no one batted an eye. People were like, oh, you want a case of beer? Here you go. Sure. No problem. Have a great day, sir. And I'm like, cool.
And you're right. So ho vegetables.
Right. But at the same time, because my parents were like, never touch anyone, I ended up getting bullied in school. Oh. I'm like, listen, yeah. So for me, the principle was don't touch anyone, never touch anyone. And the fact was my parents were like, listen, if he touches somebody, he's going to fucking hurt them. Right. And that was a legitimate concern.
When I heard you say don't touch anyone, I thought them be like telling you.
You thought I was a dirty pervert? No,
I thought they were just telling you to be abstinent or whatever as you were entering adolescence.
Oh no. Well, hilariously, that was also the case. Where it's like, well, listen, that's something you should say for your spouse. I lasted till marriage. That's why, like, the idea where abstinence is impossible. No, it's not. You just have to try. It's a little bit of effort. Is it hard? Yeah, but the payoff is fantastic. So not all of us are slutty like you got.
I fucking snaked it backed into place. Let's fucking go. This is the best chat I've seen in a while.
I eventually liked flan. I hate Jell-O though. Yeah, Jell-O is a weird taste. There it goes. It's one of those things, but like at the same time, if you fill anything with sugar, you'll figure it out. It's, that's why like my wife is Chinese and they make jelly, and I'm like, no, I only eat Jello for the sugar. I don't eat Jello for the mouthfeel. That's not.
No, you don't. Yeah, it's you spread it on stuff, not the Jello, the jam. I just love that he meant to say snapped, but I just love the idea of like he puts the bone in and it goes, "Well done, Mr. Potter."
You have connected the pieces, Potter. Yeah. When Serge's like, when my mom was pregnant with me, she would smoke weed and eat. I mean,
that's not good. I don't think.
Well, listen, Cole's mom did a lot of blow, and he's got little hands. So I don't think weed gives you little hands, but it may slow things down. Maybe it's a benefit. I don't know. But
my parents didn't do anything like that, but I do have a zit on the inside of my nose right now, and it's driving me absolutely butt fuck insane. So
yeah. That's a norm. That's a normal feeling. Like I said with in the chat, where I'm like, if you have a zit on the inside of your nose, your options are stab it or nothing. Those, and that's like there aren't really good.
Yeah. You can't pop it like a normal zit because you can't get around it. You just
Yeah. Well, so what I do in situations like that is I'll just start like stabbing my nail into it over and over and over and over and over, and then eventually it hurts like son of a bitch. But a zit in the nose is a skill issue.
That might be the episode title. Zara. Thank you for that.
You're not wrong.
Built different, yeah, in a literal sense. You get their story because they can't just give it all to you at once. That's what my dad did. Where when I was 4, I asked him where babies came from, and he told me where babies came from with diagrams.
He was a doctor though, like he was like a real doctor. He wasn't a dentist or anything. He was a real doctor. So
like read the room. Your child is 4.
Yeah, that's probably a little early. That's like at the same time, like you at least got to talk. Mine was, if you ever come home pregnant, you're dead.
And then you're like, what's pregnant? And you're like, figure it out. I'm out.
Yeah. So you're like, that's not really
throw a hole in the sheet when you get married.
Yeah, it's not necessarily autism. So, but that's the whole thing is like, you're never gonna get the full thing. And also too, like, I wish I could have cornered my dad. Like now that it's legal and everything, like I've said to my mom, like, I'm like, well, what about that? And she's like, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, okay, well, because religious wise, and I'm just like, well, I don't really care. Right. But that's the thing is,
she was shown Reefer Madness in 1962 and just never got over.
Probably as well. So the funny thing is, where my mom is from originally is up in the mountains of Greece, right? And they are very close to the border of Albania and what is now Macedonia, I believe. But that is like Greek Macedonia is where she is. Now, that being said, like there were fields of poppies hidden in that mountain. Throughout the wars. So you're going, maybe she didn't smoke weed, but I'm like, somebody rode the dragon. Like, don't pretend like nobody rode the dragon. Like somebody did. But like that's the thing is, like when I went to Mexico the other year, like Mexico is a whole other ballgame, and drugs are illegal. So for their situation down there is you're either not okay with drugs or you're a criminal. Like those, it's a very, either you are a criminal or you don't do drugs. Like there's no mix and matchy. And that's why you're going like, a lot of people are like, the war on drugs. And you're like, yeah, but you know, the war on drugs was lost to drugs, and it's awesome. So, and also too, you don't realize where you're going, listen, there are some drugs that are good, some drugs that are bad, right? Like heroin, that's not a good one. That's a bad one, right? Cocaine, fun one, not a good one. There's a lot of risk when it comes to stuff like that. But then like you have things like mushrooms. For me, I swear by them. I think they're doing a great job in getting me to a place where it's going to be a lot better, and they're helping. Now, that being said,
I'm personally a fan after my little experience this summer.
I hope we can do it together sometime, because anyways, the cool thing is that like then you have things like LSD, and you're like, LSD is not necessarily a good thing, but it's a lot more efficient than mushrooms. But also it's different. There are issues. So I'm like, you gotta, there's no harm in trying to look at things, but at the same time, you gotta be careful. Coke is needed for my late night studies. I mean, that's fair. Cheap viewers, thanks.
No,
Plague is
it's spam. It's a spam bot. Leave it alone.
I know, but I still want to point them out and go, ha, shame on you, dirty.
Well, they're
robot.
not real, so it's fine.
Dirty robot.
Robot.
I shame you, dirty robot.
But like the fact that when I came home and I told my in-laws like what I was doing up in Oregon, they were shocked, not because of the thing itself, but because it's still technically illegal. And I was thinking, so if it was legal like weed is, you wouldn't care. Like they take weed gummies too. And I'm a perfectly functioning adult. My brain has stopped growing. I'm not doing it in the presence of children. I did it by myself and listened to various albums and the Hamilton soundtrack. Hi Dan, wherever you are. But
that's the thing is like, so is the issue the drugs or that it's technically against the law? Like, okay, but are you a snitch? Am I telling a snitch? Is that why? Like, that's a weird, like, I've never understood that where I'm like, oh, well, did you do it in a safe environment? Are you okay? Yeah. Okay. Tell me about it. Right. Like, I don't, that's a weird, and that's why it's like, okay, but if the government said it was okay tomorrow, then would you do it or not? And then I'm like, that's a weird stance for me. Right.
And I remember weed going from completely illegal to medicinally illegal, or illegal to legal. And that was over the course of like the latter half of high school into my college,
which is
that was happening in California. And it was very interesting. Also, like working at a weed dispensary where it went from medicinal to completely legal in the middle of that. Where,
which is
because and the behavior changed completely. Like the people who would come in with the medical cards, like half of them were just using it as a way to get weed because that's what everyone was doing. But they would act almost guilty, like here's my card, and then the rest of the time they're like, here's my ID. Cool. I'm gonna go get some purple Urkel or whatever the strain is, like, and it's fine because it's not that big of a deal. Like if there's anything I've learned from studying prohibition, which we're going to talk about, not prohibition itself, but its effects in Bonnie and Clyde on Last Minute History this Wednesday. Come check it out. But in studying that, like a big part of why it was such a like fuck up for the U.S. government to ban all alcohol is when something is not legal, it can't be regulated. There's no drinking age. There's no drinking and driving laws. It's just, are you making and selling booze? No, you're okay. Then that's it. You're not breaking the law. And then, so like the problems of people doing the drugs illegally will happen regardless. It's like diarrhea.
Wow. And that's the thing is you also have a situation where there was around that, like one of the key components of prohibition was that people were making it themselves.
Yeah.
And like when you can make fuel yourself, you kind of become self-sufficient.
Yeah. Like that. So like little fun fact, they used to sell these things called Vine Glow, which was a big brick of dehydrated grape juice. Yeah. And it was like, dissolve in a gallon jug of water. And then at the bottom it says, once it's done, don't put it in the cabinet for 2 weeks with no light, because then it could turn into wine.
Yeah. Maybe? Danger.
Don't do it.
Which is a hilarious warning. We're like, I feel like we need warnings like that again, where it's like
if you wink, one of those.
Well, like, so if you were intending this for ulterior motives, don't do that. Please don't. You know, but that's the whole idea, right? Where you're going like the idea where you could refine stuff. And remember, like there was like right now, I have a niece has chickens, and every once in a while she gets us eggs. They're so good.
Yeah.
But like where I am in Toronto, I'm not allowed to have chickens. And I'm like, why not? Why can't I have chickens? I have a lawn. I should be able to have chickens, right? Yeah. But then you find out that like there was a whole thing where like in I forget, it was in Northern Europe where they were having a garbage issue. And they said, okay, so everyone can get 3 chickens if you want. And everyone's like, yep. So chickens are very good for compost.
Yeah.
And they're also good for pest control. They're also good for eggs. And like, you're like, there's a lot of beneficial things.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's a weird thing where you're like, no, you can't have them. You're like, but why not? Like, if I'm causing a problem, sure. But if I just want chickens, like, that's a weird, like, I'm not saying I should be allowed to have an emu farm in my neighborhood. That's crazy. But
awesome, though.
It does sound awesome, right? Yeah. But like, why shouldn't I be like, it's the whole idea of, if you can regulate cats, like, what if I, are you going to say I can't have a dog either? Like, that's insane.
I think the idea is like, you're in Toronto, which is like pretty suburban, right? You have like probably a lot in the mid-century where they're trying to make it so perfect and pristine, and we can't have it smelling like chicken shit or whatever. That's my guess. That's the best guess I have.
Chicken's egg
Chicken's egg anything, mini edible
dinosaurs. I mean, that's 100% true. And I'm like, but that's the thing, is like, a lot of the time that things are banned, you find that they're banned as a function of control as opposed to a function of safety necessarily. Because remember, one person being unsafe is a one-person issue. But if it's suddenly, like, remember, there was a war on drugs.
Yeah.
But then you find out that, oh, wait, a lot of politicians did drugs, and a lot of people in power did drugs. And you're like, well, then why the hell is nobody allowed to do drugs? That doesn't make any sense. Like, and then you're saying, well, hold on, this is also profitable. Then you find out that, like, hemp was a better, cheaper product than cotton. So that became an issue. And you're going, well, hold the phone, right?
Yeah. Like, so you can think like William Randolph Hearst and all those like paper magnates or those guys.
Yeah. And that's when you're saying, going, like, there's a lot of like, which, let's be honest, is Canada and the United States are some of the freest places in the world. But then, like, if I go to Greece in my village, I can have chickens. So
yeah,
am I free? I don't know, right? Like, it's this weird thing where, like, in Greece, you have a thermosiphon, which is like a tanker up on your roof that is angled to the sun, and that heats your water. Okay.
Oh,
you buy the thing, now you have hot water. Congratulations. Why? Because fuel is expensive.
Does the water come in from the city and it's just like it's kept up there on the roof?
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's like solar panels, but for your water. That's cool.
Yeah, it's to heat the water because, like, it's hot as hell over there, right? So yeah. Hemp is also more environmentally friendly. Also true, like, cotton has a lot of refinement requiring chemicals, and that's why you're like, this is the thing, is like, there's so many things where you're like, oh, we're ultra processing so corn and now beets, and there's a few other things that are being ultra processed to provide sweeteners, and you're going, okay, but the amount of chemicals that are toxic that are used to make them into sweeteners is a bigger issue than not having sugar. You're like, so, and also too, you're making these sweeteners for gummy worms. We don't need 10,000 gummy worms a day. That's insane. It's not, like, it's a weird thing. Mexico
or like all the stuff with chocolate, or like how hard it is to, like, do milk chocolate, and like that's a whole nother can of worms. And Christ.
Well, but that's the thing, is like, chocolate is a resource. I made a little video of this where I'm like, chocolate is a resource that is being used up more than is possible to be produced, which means eventually there will be none. Yeah. So Mexico banned U.S. corn. That's not surprising.
U.S. corn was cheaper compared to Mexican corn, which is crazy.
It is crazy.
I guess it makes sense with, like, how fucking gigantic the U.S. is and how much corn you can grow there. No? What am I missing?
So it's about product. So there is a lot of very cheap fertilizer and like GMO used corn that is produced specifically for ethanol and things like that. And it's the same idea. So this happened in Greece years ago. Was that one of a neighboring village? He grew citrus. That was his farm. And my cousin drove by and he saw all of the lemons. Every lemon tree, all the lemons were on the ground. He literally stopped his car. He goes, "What the fuck happened? Where are all your lemons on the ground?" He's like, "It's cheaper for me to go to the grocery store and buy a lemon that's been shipped to Greece from Argentina than it is for me to bend down and pick it up on my own lawn." Explain that. And everyone just goes, "Yeah, that's fucked. That's a fucking weird thing." You're going, that's the thing is, and that's why you're going, things can be produced cheaper. Doesn't mean it's better for you. A lot of those things, they ripen in a container. Hemp also cleans contaminated soil. That is true too, right? They use hemp material to clog some oil leaks. Probably because American farmers just dump corn for exportation, to control supply and demand in the U.S., but not doing so. So hilariously, I was talking about this a while ago, was that there is one market that actually outperforms corn and soy combined in the U.S. Do you know what that is?
What? Brazil. I don't know.
No. It's a product. So it outperforms GDP. So corn and soy.
Sugar?
Combined are outperformed by this one thing.
Dairy, like milk.
Blood.
No. Blood.
Yeah. Apparently it's like outperforms by billions of dollars.
That might explain when I went by the New York Stock Exchange the other day, there were vampire gargoyles on the roof, and then they were asking me if I could invite them in.
Listen,
blood.
Yeah. So there's a lot of new therapies. So okay, this is the funny thing is, like, do you remember they're turning the frogs gay?
Yeah.
Right, which is hilarious. And then you're like, oh.
That's the most annoying part about like the right-wing grifters is that they're like funny unintentionally, like Alex Jones and Donald Trump and Ben Shapiro. They're all fucking hilarious, but not on purpose.
The worst part is then you're like, wait, but then that was actually a thing in Argentina, and it was because of Roundup being dumped into like it's a whole fucking thing, and you're going, that's terrifying. Then you're going, oh, so apparently there's a therapy. So like about stem cell therapy, right? Like it's a huge deal. So now the newer thing is that teenagers, their blood has a lot more hormones and stuff like that. That's really, really good for you.
Oh, I know. It's like the tech billionaire where he got his son to be his blood bag or something. Is that what you're talking about?
And to the dad. So apparently this guy's doing it very publicly, which I'm like, that's weird. Because also he's like, I have the visceral or the internal body age of a 20-year-old. You're like, you look like death, bro. Like, it's weird. But like, so apparently that has become such a huge industry that it outperforms soy and corn combined, which you're like, that's fucking terrifying. But also too, everybody wants to live forever, right?
I also don't think it's as effective as they're making it seem. It just seems like they decided one thing, just went for it.
But remember, there's that whole Ozempic thing right now, which you're like, Ozempic is really risky to use. Like, it does a lot of badness to your thing, but you're like, you'll get thin by force, so that's not bad. But
or like, so they did a musical for The Great Gatsby recently, and I've been like fucking mainlining the soundtrack. But,
I'm so surprised.
Well, that combined with the student being like, I got to read about half of The Great Gatsby before I switched schools and came here, and I never got to see how it ended. And I'm like, I want to read the rest of the book. So I reread the book, right? And like a big thing is a lot of the shitty people in this book, read all of them, are people who like flaunt their wealth, right? Yeah. So it's the same thing with the blood bags, where it's like, check out my blood bag of a son, and it's like it's all for nothing. You can't take it with you, you know.
See, well, that's the funny part is there's a song right now. I think it's called Tipsy. It's a country song, but it's also a black guy that sings it, which I'm like, oh, interesting.
Lil Nas X walked so that everyone else could run. Is great.
No. His name is Shabuzi or something. It's a good song. But he even said, he goes like, I'm worried about my debt, but I can't take it with me. And you're kind of going, isn't that a fucker? You're going like, man, we're only here for a fairly short period of time on the grand scheme of things. And it's like, but like, we let so much burden us. And that's one of the things that I really like. I smoked my first joint in grade 9, which means I was 14,
grade 11, 16,
right?
Yeah.
Listen, and I was super high. There's no question about it. But it was a great time. And like, that being said, you're like, it's not anything in it overindulge in is dangerous. You know, whether it be drugs, whether it be abstinence of things, whether it be being healthy, like overtraining is an actual thing. Like, there's so many things that are risky where you're like, listen, it all comes down to being balanced. And that's why it's like, there's like if you're doing drugs at 9:00 in the morning on a Tuesday, that's not a balanced view of things, right? But it's like, hey, it's Friday night. I'm going out with the boys. I want to smoke a joint. Yeah, that's a great time. Now, if you're working Saturday morning, not so much a good time. But, it's a time and a place for everything. I think that's
and it's called college.
Oh, I don't even think it is college. I think college is the worst time to experiment, right? Like
no, the South Park quote where chef's like, "There's a time and a place for everything, children, and it's called college."
I mean,
what do you mean? College is the place where people experiment. It's the first time you're away from home, usually.
That's the problem. It's a problem. So think about it this way: is you're left to your own devices, and you choose to indulge. You have no support system, none of the regular protections, and as well, you don't know who is also there. That's the worst time to experiment. Right. And even to the point where even my parents were like, if you want to drink, good, sit down, let's drink. No problem. No, good parents. You're like, yeah, that's
that is certainly a hot take, but I can see where you're coming from. And like, yeah, for the most part, I know a lot of people who were destined for greatness didn't even finish the first year of university. Why? First time they were away, first time they had freedom, and they chose, fuck it. Yeah. And you're going, which I get it, I really do, but I think most of my experiences with drugs were for the most part positive because, dare stuff aside, when I was a little kid, by the time it was like middle and high school, those views were changing. So when I got to like high school and college, it was like, yeah, maybe. Like, drinking was never stigmatized in my home. It was like, I have beer. Do you want to taste a sip of my beer? I'm like, ew, that's gross because I'm 6. And they're like, okay,
perfect.
Maybe you'll like it when you're older.
Yeah, my first one was I was 9. Yeah. I had a zip of beer, and I was like, I'll wait until the foam. It was like a little plastic cup, like a little tiny little one, like the clear ones. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I don't like the foam. I'll wait till the foam. And they're like, okay. I did that. And then immediately I was like, I'm going to go lie down. Yeah. You're going, but that's the thing is like the next time I drank beer was significantly later.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, and even then, like, and this was the thing is like, my dad's like, listen, you want to have a drink at a wedding? That's fine, but be smart. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, so you're not going to go and get a new beer every 10 minutes and have it in a different brand. And no. You take the beer you pour it in a glass, and you walk around with the glass. That's what you do. You know why? Because you don't need people checking how much you're drinking. You're going, that's pretty reasonable, right? Because the fact is, people will go, oh, how much have you had to drink? Oh, what are you doing? You're like, that's none of your fucking business. How about that?
Yeah, Katie will do that to me. Although, granted, there's like the epilepsy thing with it, where like, it isn't good for it. So typically, the policy is like you get one, and then that's it for the rest of the night. Which
you're like, let's be honest, because you take medicine on a daily basis for epilepsy. Yes.
Yeah.
That is very difficult on your liver, taking medicine on a regular basis, right? So not drinking is probably significantly better for you. And also too, like, you may want to start having a lemon water every day when you start your day, just because it helps clean out your thing. And apple cider vinegar. But like those things, like, you never really realize. And even like, okay, I remember asking my aunt, I was like, hey, I hurt my ankle. She goes, you know what you need? She goes, take some saran wrap, put some olive oil, and then chop up an onion, put it in there, wrap your ankle in the saran wrap, and then cover all that in a towel, and then put your sock on top of it. By the morning, all the inflammation is gone. Yeah, onions do that.
No shit.
And you're going like, oh, how did you? You're like, yeah, there's
the funniest part of that is the first half made it sound like she was going to cook your foot. Put some olive oil on it, chop up some onions.
Yeah. You want to cover it properly? Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, we were in the mountains. It could have happened. Yeah. But like for every, because remember too, like I have type 2 diabetes, which I'm like this close to overcoming. It's so exciting for me. But like I'm on now a medicine called metformin. Mm-hmm. Metformin is a derivative from a tree bark, and people in poor countries chew on the bark of that tree, and it's called a poor man's metformin. So all it is been refined to manage diabetes. You're going, so how much is bark? And they're like, oh, that's free. And you're like, cool. How much are the drugs? They're like, oh, that's going to cost you money. Like, cool. I'm going to go with the bark or some life changes, either one, but like, that's the thing is like that idea where all drugs are bad. You're like, no, that's not true. Because pharmaceuticals, are they bad? No, because the government has approved them. Okay, well, what did the government approve? Because fentanyl is a government approved drug. That'll fucking kill you, bro.
Well, it's mostly used for like end of life care, right? Where when like we just got to make sure they have like a peaceful passing. That's good for that, right?
You would think that. Suddenly, it's not, right? Like there's all things. Okay, 3 shots at the age of 13.
Multiple shots at the age of 13,
yeah,
which I do remember Zaru telling me this. Yeah,
was it like on a bet or was it for shenanigans? I need to know.
I'm gonna let Zaru fill that one in because I know I'm gonna get details wrong. So that'll come up when it comes up. I like how Serge says my parents took me to beach parties in Hawaii and let me run around chugging red cups till I passed out. Which
wow. Let's be honest though, is that a parent will let you do that. You learn a lesson, and then you're probably not going to do it again, right? Like
hand on a hot stove type deal. Yeah.
Well, like, see, and that's where it's like, hey, if you let people, Serge, you're the best shenanigans, and like, share, and subscribe. Yes, everyone, like, share, and subscribe. It was in a Mexico trip. I mean, that's fair, but like, and this is the weird thing is you're going like, I think of I vomited pretty much. You mean, oh yeah. Like, and look, and you're better for it. Let's be honest. At that age, you shouldn't like. But like the idea where it's like, yeah, you know what? Your parents let you run wild at a wedding, drinking cups, and then you threw up and felt like shit. Good. You know why? Your parents were there to take care of you. There were other people there to make sure you got home. You were safe. If you needed help, medical help, they would have gotten you the help. But you're going, that's the thing, and that's why it's like college is a horrible place to experiment. It is a good place to try, like, but because remember, think about it this way: if you went for dinner and you paid a substantial amount, and you said, "Okay, feed me," and then they were like, "All right, here's a bag of groceries," you'd be like,
"Feed me, Steve.
No, feed me, make me food," and they're like, "Okay, here's water." You're like, "No, that's not what I paid for," right? So it's like, look, you're paying to go to school. Get schooled. At nighttime, hey man, like the one advantage is that should be your first foray into like weekends are for partying kind of thing. But
yeah, well, I think that's what people mean when they say college is for experimentation, is for that.
I was like, bro, it was like noon, and I was drinking pitchers of beer. I was 2 years old way back in Hawaii.
I love the idea of like the next morning they're like, oh, I passed out and I shat my pants. They're like, yeah, he's a 2-year-old. Isn't that all of them? Like,
perfect. Yeah. That's how they do it.
Yeah,
I definitely think
that experience, although not the wisest thing to do since I was 13, did make me realize I shouldn't drink so much. Sure. Yeah. And people have different, experiences with drugs and alcohol and all that stuff. Like,
yeah, but that's a good, like, I think about it, I'm like, that's a great lesson to learn at 13, because if you learn it at 16, things may not work out so kindly. Yeah. Right. And like, that's a scary situation.
You shouldn't like, that doesn't mean don't drink ever, but it just means like where your limit is. And like you were saying at the beginning of the episode, people change over time. Maybe you can handle more, or maybe you enjoy different types of booze as you get older. Like, I do not care about the fact that fruity drinks are delicious. Fuck it. Mojito me till the ends of the earth. I don't give a shit. Like,
well, look, and especially as a teenager, a lot of people try and front to be like, you're not cool if you don't get drunk with us. And you're like, that's not how you get cool. It's not. And anyone who tells you that, they're trying to bring you down to their level. Because I'll be honest, is like, if you know what to expect when you're going to get shit-faced, like, obviously, my experience is jaded because, number one, if I get drunk and fall down, that's where I'm going to be. Just, you can come back in a few hours. I'll take a nap because nobody's moving me. That's even now, nobody could. So, but like, that's the whole idea is like, if you have no control over the situation, like that's a huge thing. And then it's better to learn when you're young, as opposed to like when you're the most risk. Because like, especially, can you imagine taking drugs for the first time at 17 or 18 when you're like, oh, perfect, this is just in time to ruin your entire life. Ta-da! And then that's it, right?
Yeah.
Scary. But that's the thing is, like, I walked in, like, I always joke because I have 2 weed stores that are right by me. Mm-hmm. One is like, we won't be beat because we're the cheapest. And I'm like, yep, that's not where I go. Mm-hmm. I've been there once and I was like, gross. Then the other place I go to is like super fancy, and it's like in a fancier area, and it's just, all in all, it's fantastic. But then I'll like have conversations and then I'll tell them, I'm like, I remember there's at least 3 times in my life I smoked oregano and I just pretended to be high. 100%.
Yeah.
So you're like, that was a great, hilarious experience.
And that's before it was legalized and before they could regulate
for sure.
That's the other thing besides the like, oh, you don't know if the thing's safe. It's also like, so you know what you're getting when you pay for it. That's another good thing about legalizing drugs.
Well, and that's the whole thing is like, I can walk in and buy drugs and be less scrutinized than cigarettes or alcohol, which I'm like, that's crazy.
Right? I think like, because the like legalize it movement was so tied to like hippies and so tied to like free love, man, like for so long that because by this point, stoners are just like, I just want to smoke a joint, leave me alone. Like,
yeah. So, and like, I go into my place and I'm like, so I want pre-rolls, and they're like, it's cheaper if you buy flour, and I'm like, sausage fingers, I don't roll. And they're like, can you? And I'm like, like barely.
That's interesting that they're outright telling you what the best deal is
too. Oh yeah. And even like there was one where like I mentioned the name, they're like, hey, as soon as they saw me, they're like, ooh, you're probably gonna like this. I'm like, what? Because there's a brand called 1964 that has consistently come up with really good stuff. The first thing I smoked from theirs was LA Organic Kush, and it was top tier.
Grown on the concrete banks of the LA River. No,
I mean, very, very possibly, but
callback.
So, but then like now they have another one called Comatose, and they were like, as soon as I walked in, they're like, we got something for you. I'm like, what? They're like, okay, so we're probably not going to get pre-rolls again, but these are the pre-rolls. They're like, nobody else is getting pre-rolls. We got them. We don't know how we got them, but we got them. And I'm like, cool. And the funny thing was the pre-roll was the same price as the flour. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, but it was top tier. I got 5 joints. It was like 3.5 grams. Cost me 40 bucks. And I was like,
I just love the idea that like our parents, our grandparents would have like a box of cigars. And now we got like boxes of pre-rolls. I have some like in our bedside table. Yeah, it's the same.
It's so weird. Can you imagine like the idea of like having that available? That was, you were a good host. You're like, oh, I have a bar, multiple different liquors. I have cold beer. I have XYZ. And you're going like, I remember this was one thing that like we had guests a couple times. Like we don't really have guests too often because we're in the basement and stuff, and we have other responsibilities. But like when we were first living together, I would buy A&W root beer, Dr. Pepper, crushed cream soda, Diet Coke. Like I would buy all the good stuff, right? Yeah. And people were like, do you have that? I'm like, no, I have the real. They're like, hey, do you have anything like root beer? I'm like, I have A&W root beer. They're like, you have A&W root beer? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, would you like one?
What, do you think I'm a bitch who serves mug? No, get over there. It's A&W.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, mug. People were like, oh, do you have any Barks? And I'm like, get out of my house. You're disgusting.
Barks is okay. It's not mug bad, but it's like A&W is the best, I think.
That's see, this is the thing. Is it's kind of like, I love having this argument where people are like, oh, LeBron's the greatest. You're like, no, he isn't. You know why? Because nobody has to defend Michael Jordan. Everyone has to defend LeBron James. That's the difference. Right? You're going like, and they're like, oh, I like Barks root beer. That's your mouth is mangled. That's it. Yeah. I have a Jimmy. All right, Jim. Yeah. Have a good one, brother.
By. Yeah.
Always a pleasure, sir. Yeah. Skywalker, I miss you. I mean, look, the whole idea with drugs, and I'm like, look, having them and knowing full well what's going to happen. Like, I want to do mushrooms for the longest time, but I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, so I can't risk my safety, my family safety. That's just That's a poor decision. And I don't make poor decisions. I am just poor. There's a difference. So when Kyle was like, oh, I do mushrooms, and I'm like, would you be willing to let me do it? He's like, yeah, sure. There's no problem. And he was like, I'll explain everything to you. We'll go through it. And there was a couple times where I was like, he's like, everything's fine. I'm like, cool. Okay, everything's fine. He's like, yep, you're right where you're supposed to be. Everything's okay. And I'm like, yeah.
You got your demon voice on.
Oh, that was the one thing where it happened with both me and him when I was going. Then all of a sudden we'd both be like, and you just like forget to breathe. And it's very weird when you're both outside.
I didn't really have that problem with mine. It was, I don't know, just the fact that Dan used the phrase, you can gently retard yourself. And I just like, it's such a great phrase.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I was pretty relaxed for almost the entire thing. And like, yeah, sorry, I stepped on you.
No, but I'm so happy that you had a good experience, because I've heard of people having horrible experiences, and I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Like I kind of want to have a crazy experience, but also I'm good with having good experiences. It's been nice, like, and that's like, I've had people like, I take too much, but I'm also like
Giant Life of Giants every Monday on YouTube.
Thank you. But that's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I don't, people try and be like, oh, you would do that? And I'm just like, yeah, why wouldn't? I'm like, do you know how they work? And they're like, no. I'm like, then why would you criticize it negatively what you've invested zero to learn about? That's a weird thing,
You know what I think it was? The fact that you A, sold me on them, and B, like, made it sound so poetic, almost like with the snowy hill thing.
Yeah.
And for people who don't know what I'm talking about, your brain is a sledding hill. The things you do and the stuff you experience is sleds going down that create grooves over time, and doing the fungus in question is like a fresh, like, coating of snow.
Sorry. I just thought the fungus among us. Once you do the fungus among us,
yeah. But like, you explaining that to me, were like, I almost kind of sort of knew what to expect, and like was almost excited to try. It was like reading a book that people told you was really good, and then you're like, all right, I'm open to it, versus like, I don't know what this is going to do to me. I'm at this party, I'm being pressured into it because I'm in a room with 3 other people and I want them to like me. That
would be horrible. And that's where I'm like, yeah, that's the worst. And like, that's one of those things where I feel like having siblings or parents are, everyone thinks their parents are horrible, right? But then later on in life, you're going, I've seen much worse parents. So
King Triton wasn't a jerk. She was 16. Put on a shirt, Ariel.
Yeah. Right? It's one of those. Okay, McFish talked with shrooms. Oh, Jesus Christ!
We have a weird comment section.
I mean, that's fair.
Me with my mom about card games. I think that was like me trying to, like, you selling them.
That's fair. She did critique without any. Oh, she yeah. Oh, that's your kind of card games then. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing. Is like, hey, if you're not going to invest, this is also to Zara goes. I don't mean to be at your mom, but it's like, anyone who comes at me and I'm like, okay, well, what do you know about them? Well, I just know they're bad. And you're going, oh, we're not on the same side. Like, you're not on you don't want what's best for me. You want me to conform like you. That's a different, for me, that's I don't like you. Like, immediately I'm like, oh, you're not a good person.
Yeah.
Whereas I've had people go, you did mushrooms? I've never done them. How did that go? And I'm like, so
pretty good.
And I tell people, I'm like, so a while ago, I'm like, I was trying to better myself. I've lost a lot of weight. I'm working out regularly, all those kind of things. And I'm like, but I realized I'm kind of the last problem I need to overcome. And through all my research, you're like, you kind of have to have that, that moment. And mushrooms kind of do that. And I was like, if I'm willing to, learn to fast and about diet and nutrition and all that kind of stuff, I might as well try to do stuff, right? Like, I remember times when people are like, you want a salad? And I'll be like, gross. I have salads all the time. It's delicious. But I'm like, oh, at the same time, my salads are fucking delicious. So,
Ranch dressing, my one and only love. No. I'm kidding.
It's such a bad dressing.
I know.
You couldn't even give me Caesar. Jeez.
That's the point. That's the point. It was supposed to be like a shitty dressing.
Hilariously, I worked at a Montana's, which is like a barbecue place, and one of their things was they had like a house ranch that was a little spicy. Yeah. I was like, I love it. And then people were like, you know what, ranch isn't a good dressing, and I'm like, no, it's really not. It's just so bad. But I was also like 29 when I learned this. So I was like, oh, ranch is horrible.
One time when I was a kid at a sleepover, you know how you do the thing where like you put the peanut butter on your sleeping friend's hand, then you tickle their face so they like instinctually.
Of course.
They did that with ranch to me. Fuck you, Will Reagan, wherever you are. But yeah, so I'm like 9 or 10, and like they do it with the ranch dressing, and I like slap myself awake. I'm like, oh, what is that smell? They're like, the dog came in and licked you, and like I was half asleep, so I didn't really get. I fell back to sleep, and then the next morning the ranch had like solidified my hair. And I came home. My mom's like, "You are not coming out of that shower until you can shape the hair with your own hand." Like,
yeah. See, this is the funny thing is like you have those situations, and then you're like, "I'm just gonna wear it with pride." I have no option. And shame has left the building. Okay, Zaragoza.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first time I had my wife make me a sandwich, I was like, "What is this?" She's like, "Oh, there's cheese and meat," and I'm like, no, that's for like children. I need a sandwich. And I'm like, bro, my mom would make sandwiches and she taught me how to make them. And I was like, listen, it comes down to not just what you like. My mom was so awesome. She would have a separate Ziploc bag with tomatoes for me to add when I got to school. Nice. And like, yeah, it
doesn't like seep into the bread and smart.
Bro, I remember, so I was working out like in the morning and at night, and I was walking to school. I was doing all sorts of stuff in high school. And like, I was like in high school at my biggest, I was 334, 333, something like that. And then I lost a bunch of weight, and which was horrible, which is even worse. But anyway, so when that happened, like I was like, Mom, she would make me 2 sandwiches for lunch, and like I would get to school and I would eat them like within, like by my second period, they're gone. Like my break between my first and second, they were both gone.
Nutrition, like, right? Is that what it's called? Nutrition or
no, I would eat them. Like I would just
like in the passing period between the 2 classes.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then I'm like, Mom, I need more food. She's like, why are you eating so much? I'm like, I'm working out and doing stuff. And she's like, okay. And then so she would like buy like an Italian loaf, which is like this
huge.
Big.
Yeah, they're gigantic. Yeah.
She would cut it in half. Yeah. And one side would be a sandwich, the other half would be used like for dinner at nighttime. And I'm like, and I pulled it out of my bag.
What are you, like, Popeye? These are gigantic. Yeah.
The people who saw me and I'm like, eat food. And they're like, that's your sandwich? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, how do you? I'm like, my mom loves me. You should talk to your mom.
I love that they get the demon voice for this. Like, why so much? And you're like, I'm a genetic marvel.
That's it. Yeah. I was not sure. Burp talk sounded like a demon scared.
I bet.
I mean, yeah. Listen. The burp mid-conversation is like one of the happiest skills that I've learned.
There's a reason that the beginning of our streams always starts with him burping. It's because it's hilarious.
It's au natural, baby. Yeah. It's one of those things that I've always had private. Anyways, so this has been a great conversation, Atlas. We actually stayed on point. We've been doing that more often. I'm very happy with this. We're staying kind of relatively focused.
That's good. Yeah. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this. I'm sorry we couldn't have our guests. What was it? Jeff and Kayla were their names?
Yeah. But we'll have them. Yeah. We'll have them back. They're pretty cool. They were on. Yeah. And also, I think Jeff works at a grow op, and Kayla just smokes a lot of weed, which I'm like, hey, that's. Mm-hmm. I haven't smoked weed in like 2 weeks because of my whatever's happening with my voice and everything, but
yeah.
I'm getting superpowers, everyone. Just so you know, this is the superpower stage of my evolution.
So thanks for watching, listening. Tell your friends at Generation Dan anywhere you can find your podcasts or social media or whatever the fuck. Every other Wednesday, you can check out Last Minute History, also on this very YouTube channel, on the 18th. So for people hearing this is already up. Cole, Clayton, and I will be talking about Bonnie and Clyde because, as it turns out, they were in their 20s when they died, and I thought they were like 42 because Warren Beatty just has that kind of face.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
So there's that, and then how about you, sir?
Listen, I have tomorrow is Life of Giants at 7 p.m. on my channel. Cole is going to sub in for Kyle because Kyle has a job. No, and then Wednesday, Hammered and Cheese. We're making a man's Cobb salad.
Do you mean Tuesday or Wednesday? You said Wednesday.
Oh yeah, Tuesday. Thank you.
Tuesday.
I'm drinking this. It's hot water with this concoction I found at Costco. It was like a big jug, and it's lemon, like lemon peels, lemon rind, like lemon juice, honey, and ginger. And like it's doing a lot better than like Fisherman's Friend and anything else. So I'm kind of like, that's good for me.
That sounds like sore throat killer number 4. That's like
it's pretty it's pretty, and it's also like it's quite tasty, and I'm like lemon, this is good for me. So it's been going. Follow me, guys. Dino the Genetic Marvel, and Cole is a giant man child. So I guess I am going to be photoshopping his face onto
Kyle's body. Which I guess we should plug this September 26th, right? Was that the day?
Yeah, September 26th. Oh, I don't even know if I have a fucking thing for it. Shit.
So September 26th is a hot dog eating contest between Dino and
Cole.
Oh my god, it's the thing from Last Minute History. Hot dog eating contest between Dino and Cole. I'm gonna be there talking shit at various points, along with Queen Fee and who else?
Actually, whatchamacallit will be there too.
Ruby,
Kayla, and Jeff.
Okay.
Ruby might be there. There's a few people. So come check it out, and we are happy because we're doing a wiener apocalypse. It's we're going to eat a bunch of wieners and make fun of each other, but also it should be entertaining. We're going to try and do some weird stuff too. So, because we're all weirdos. But then, so check everything out, guys. And,
at Atlas Novak, anywhere you get your social medias, or my other podcast, which we kind of quit podcasting for the moment, but we stream every Friday, Nexus at night.
Nice.
It's about a trading card game called Vanguard. And if you don't like it, fuck you.
That's it. That is a you problem, you bastard.
That is a you problem. That's a skill issue. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.